Hey everybody, welcome to the Church Bulletin Insert, Episode 2. These are special episodes where any of us from the Church Bulletin podcast, so basically the staff at St. Jude's, will have a discussion or a conversation with somebody that is more timeless, because every week we get together and we discuss the Church Bulletin, and we just made a great episode. That was fun, but after this weekend, it will essentially be useless information. Like, it will have gone by and passed. We'll be making a new episode, but this, it's a little bit more timeless. So we switched seats.
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
Tim, it's good. It's good to be sitting over on this side.
You feel good over there?
I do. I definitely do. Yeah.
Yeah, I like it over there too.
I've been looking forward to this this podcast. Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I have, in the 2 years we've been doing this now, I've never sat over here before.
Oh, really?
This is the first time. I've always sat in that corner.
Yeah.
So I'm uncomfortable, which is good. This is good. This is what we're called to. I'm gonna move over a little bit here. There we go. All right. So take it away.
Should we start with an opening question here? Awesome.
Yeah.
So Tim, you went to the Wonder Conference.
I did.
With our pastor, Father Osmaselli.
Absolutely.
How about I think a good opening question would be, can you just give us like a snapshot? What is the Wonder Conference? Mm-hmm. And then maybe a real quick 1 minute big picture of it, and then we'll dive into the topics.
Absolutely. You're going to have to do this again, with Father Ross, because he's so much more, I feel intellectual than I am. But we both very much enjoyed it.
Wonderful.
He's been to 2 now, so it would be interesting to hear his perspective, maybe, between the 2 conferences. But for me, it was in Rochester, Minnesota, Bishop Barron's diocese of Winona, Rochester. I grew up in Minnesota, so there's my accent. So I don't know if Father Ross brought me because he really wanted me to experience the conference, or if he just felt bad being in my home state and not taking me with him, honestly. But no, he wanted me to be there. I'm kidding. But no, a quick snapshot of the kind of the trip. We drove down with a couple of really cool Catholics from down in Elk County, and we drove basically all day to southern Minnesota. And it's weird how I didn't realize this, because I spent very little time in that part of the state growing up in Minnesota. I was always kind of in the north, which the north is like this too, but the south tip of Minnesota and Wisconsin look exactly like Pennsylvania.
Okay.
It's
I never knew that.
Crazy. We were kind of driving. I was we literally could be in Edinburgh right now, and just not know. So it was kind of neat to see that. We immediately left that for corn and more corn, maybe a horse, then more corn. It was good. So we did that, and then we spent a day just getting ready for the conference. We went to the Mall of America just to kind of sightsee a little bit. It was kind of fun for me, being from Minnesota and being oh yeah, you've never been here before. Okay.
Yeah.
Kind of like how any of us here in Erie would be with the peninsula.
Sure.
It's yeah, cool. It's great. Don't go to Waldemere on Friday if you're from Erie, because it's packed. But it was good. So, and at first it was kind of is this a sightseeing trip? I got to run up to my hometown for an evening and a night and a morning. And that was great to see my family and some friends and stuff. But it was really nice to spend that time getting ready. I didn't realize the importance of it. At first, I just kind of was well, it's nice to spend a day. That's kind of, I didn't think about it until the conference began. Because from the moment the conference began to the time the conference ended, it was just mind-melting.
Yeah.
So if we had gotten out of the car and arrived at the conference, I don't think I'd have made it.
Yeah.
Honestly, it was really good to kind of slow down, because it just started off running. And I mentioned this in our other podcast episode, but one of the directors of Word on Fire, and then Bishop Barron himself got up and kind of gave a preview of the whole thing, and basically kind of said we need to be able to slow down. We need to be able to take information and not rush to judgment. Obviously, we might hear something that's that's completely false. But instead of just completely disowning it immediately, to take some time and to think about things. It's okay to sleep on something.
Yeah.
Maybe try and find some truth in it, to be able to connect better, with people or whatever. So kind of began with that. And we were told from the get-go, you have come to the Wonder Conference looking for answers, and you're going to get some, but you're going to leave with more questions.
Wow,
I was
powerful. That's powerful.
I was skeptical because I'm a very, I guess I'm a skeptical human being, and I heard them say that in my head. I just kind of thought, yeah, sure. Okay, like challenge accepted, kind of a pride there. And Bishop Barron got up and basically gave philosophy 101. I think Father Ross described it as his morning thoughts, because it was so, if you've ever taken a philosophy class, it was just the basic, going Socrates and then moving up philosophers to more modern day thinking, just to kind of give an overview, because the theme of the conference was the body. It wasn't the theology of the body. It was more like the philosophy, I guess you could say, of the body, like thinking about body and soul. And one of the things Bishop Barron said, I think he was quoting somebody, I didn't bring my notes with me, but it was, I am not my body, and I am not my soul. The two are one. And it was kind of a neat, just sort of kickoff, because we immediately launched into just, like I said, just mind-melting information. And it was like drinking from a fire hose. These people, I'm pretty sure everyone at the conference had a PhD except for me. So I was like, how did I end up here? But it was lovely. It was so neat, because usually most conferences that I've experienced in my life as a youth minister are very goal-orientated. You arrive at the conference, and you are told where you are going. The goal of this maybe is adoration, maybe to have an encounter with Jesus, or, and something like that. But to have Bishop Barron get up and say, nope, this is very open-ended. You're not going to leave here with a resolution. You're going to leave here looking deeper. And that, I thought, was really powerful. It was very mature, and I really liked that. That was a nice change of pace for me personally. So the next evening came, morning followed the second day.
That's clever.
So anyway, the whole day was just spent talking about different aspects of the body, and psychology, philosophy, physiology. So it started out with we'd have a keynote, then we'd have so it started, I should say Saturday started with Mass, then we'd have a keynote, then, they didn't call them breakout sessions, because this is Bishop Barron in his wisdom and awesomeness, so we called them intensive sessions. So we'd go, and it was basically a breakout session. You had 2 tracks, and like I said, most of them were on those topics, and then we would have, a break, and then dinner, and then, another keynote in the afternoon, a break, dinner, then, we would have this, there was an after party, kind of like a cocktail party, because a big part of the Wonder Conference as well with Word on Fire was networking. So meeting different leaders, because there's different communities within Word on Fire. And so to become a Word on Fire member, you can join any of these communities and grow together beyond the conference. So a lot of the leaders of those communities were actually there in person. You could talk to them at the bookstore. You could talk to the Word on Fire people. There were different, also other authors and different speakers that were there. So that was really cool to meet them, to talk to them. I got to meet a bunch of Dominican nuns that were really cool. They were like, I just kind of sister, what brings you to the conference? And she was like, well, we don't really have a stance on AI yet, so we're here. And I'm like, all right. And then I met this guy who was originally from California, had moved to Minnesota, and wasn't really Catholic at all, which I thought was kind of interesting. I also met another lady who was from, where was she from? Louisiana. And she isn't Catholic at all. She's an atheist. But she finds that Bishop Barron and Word on Fire have a very scientific and reliable approach seeking truth. So she came to hear their perspective, which that in and of itself, to me, as a snapshot of the conference, was the most amazing thing. Because it was yes, there were tons of really faithful, really smart, wise, learned Catholic people there, but there were also a ton of really smart, learned atheists and agnostics and other denominations present, I think, because, the funniest thing about the whole thing was you get a bunch of really smart Catholics in a room. And, of course, the conference that was going on underneath us in the downstairs was the Jehovah's Witness conference. So that was kind of fun, meeting those people as well. That was really interesting to watch our two faiths kind of collide. And also, they were really friendly. We were friendly. It was really neat, actually, to see that, because, that was the whole point, was just it's okay to encounter points of view. Because I grew up very passionate about the faith and almost very defensive. I enjoy apologetics. I love a good discussion about the faith, but the goal is to win souls, not arguments. Like, the truth is fine. His name is Jesus. He's in heaven. It's all good. But being able to actually interact with people and to come into something with an open mind that, I'm going to have questions at the end of this, because I was closed off to that. I left the conference, though, being like, I need to learn more. So anyway,
and that's
sorry,
powerful.
long answer.
That's a huge, I love that. That's a huge takeaway that you left the conference with I think it's an affirmation. It's like, okay, I want to learn more. The mind desires to know. Yeah. And, we see this, I think we just had this reading for Mass where it's that, Jesus is teaching the apostles and he says, unless you become like a child, you will not enter the kingdom of heaven. And Jesus is affirming that wonder is good. Yes. Obviously, there's that call to humility. It's both, but he doesn't want us to lose our wonder. Absolutely, and that was the encouragement. Yeah. It was when I said, like, think about when they were like, think about different things. Just wonder about it. Yeah. Like, because what happens when you wonder, this is kind of what, like, a major takeaway, I guess, from the whole thing. Yeah. What I realized is I don't wonder very much. Like, that's kind of what I realized. Like, I find myself very comfortable in my faith, and I find myself and Jesus did not call us, or I think the term is, he did not create us for comfort, but for greatness. For greatness, it's a great. So I don't remember who said that. It was Benedict. Benedict. Yeah. Oh yeah. Benedict 16th. Yeah. Okay. I just probably heard it at World Youth Day, because I saw him at World Youth Day when I was in high school. Anyway, but that was the thing. It was very much this thing of just being like, I don't think we spend time as Catholics, particularly, and I only say that because I am Catholic. I don't spend enough time actually sitting and just being like, whoa, wait a second. Let's examine that. Let's think, because it's taken for granted. Like, we have, right now we're going through the Bread of Life discourse, and I told the Bible study, have you ever read John 6? And as I challenged them to do that, I was like, in my heart, the Holy Spirit was like, you haven't done that in like 5 years. Like, maybe you should. And I was like, oh, I should. And that was just kind of the Wonder Conference, was just like, you should think about these things. Yeah. You should think about, how is AI going to affect not just the world, but the church? Like, how is, the biology of the human body, from an evolutionary science standpoint, how does that tie into the creation account and what we know about the world? Another thing was, look at, this one just made my head kind of implode a little bit. Father Spitzer. I won't give it, we'll probably talk about that a little bit, but he talked about the soul body. Like when the soul and the body detach in death, what that's like. And it was just like, I just sat there and I was just like, holy cow, or smokes, or whatever, just like, I've heard a couple priests around here say Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, and the donkey. Like, it was just unreal. Like, some of the, and again, this is all from a scientific standpoint. So this is not faith. And Bishop Barron did a great job in the closing Mass of tying faith and reason together. Yeah. So that did happen, but that wasn't the theme. Like, it wasn't like the Eucharistic Congress, or it wasn't like any kind of Catholic conference or retreat I've ever been to. Yeah. It was. Yeah. So sorry. I'm just like, again, I'm still processing, because it's so much. Yeah. And it sounds like it's one of those conferences where the topics are so in depth. Yeah. I mean, these are things that really expand the mind. Again, from the beginning, they said you're going to be walking away with more questions. Yep. And so it's going to take time to unpack.
Yeah.
In other words, you were talking about this earlier. There are certain things that we need to like let it marinate the mind for a time. Just like we cook. When we cook something, we let it marinate.
Yep.
Let it marinate. It's the same thing with our minds and our hearts too. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that a major takeaway, and this was something interesting as well. Like, I mean, he can speak for himself, but being with Father Ross was very, very interesting, because the other thing too was like, because he and I think obviously we both believe in Jesus. We both come to the same conclusions about faith, but the way that we both get there, I learned on this trip, is different, and that was really neat for me to see, because like sometimes you can look at someone who is, maybe more with an intellectual bend. I'm more of a passion, like, attack it kind of person when it comes to faith. Like, simpler the better. Just give me the meat and potatoes, and I will give my life for that. Like, that's kind of how I am. And so to kind of like, but Father Ross taught me a lot actually as well. Just being like, like these complex ideas are actually quite simple. And you like just sit with it. Just stop talking. Just like be with it. Let it like, and just to kind of watch him sort of take it all in as well. For me, as a parishioner, or with him as not just an employee, but as my pastor, to watch him wonder a little bit. To watch him, hear something and kind of was really powerful for me as well. And then to also watch, you could see the different speakers, like Bishop Barron, who is probably one of the premier apostles of our time. Sit there and go, watching him taking it. Like, and I just sat there and I was just like, it was very humbling to be like, I thought about the scripture at one point, like, Lord, thank you for, like, I don't remember what the exact words of Jesus, but it's like from withholding this or keeping this from the wise and the learned and revealing it to little ones. Yeah. And I just kind of sat there and I was like, I am in the presence of the wise and the learned. And it just kind of was neat to see, because I feel like for years and years and years in the church, centuries probably, there has been kind of a class system when it comes to knowledge of the faith. And then we have the Second Vatican Council, we have the new catechism come out, and like one of the first things in the catechism is, this is for everyone. Yes. This is not just for bishops or priests or teachers of the faith, but everyone. And they also, one of the neat things too, spiritually speaking, was when I was younger, I used to pray the Liturgy of the Hours a lot. I fell out of the habit, but they have a cool resource where it's month by month. It's like a subscription, so you don't have to worry about flipping through all the pages because it's laid out for you. Yeah. And I was like, I could do this again, and so just like I said, there's just a maturity about the conference where it's like, but there was also a welcoming about the Wonder Conference where it was like, whatever level you're wondering at is fine. Yeah. And that's what was neat about it. Like to be in community with some of these people and be like, this is what astounded me. And then not looking down at someone who it's like, well, this astounded me. And like, well, I knew that already. No, like there was just a group, like we are all in some way, just minds are blown right now. We're all wondering about something. Sure. And that was, I think, a really cool microcosm that I would love to see in our parish, and in our diocese, is everyone, like I've always heard the term, everyone's struggling with something. Yeah. And that's true. Like we have Celebrate Recovery here at the church, and I love that because it's very free to be there because you're like, everyone here is broken, which is kind of what church is supposed to be. The church is not a museum for saints. It's a hospital for sinners. Yep. And so that's the thing. But sometimes I feel like there can be this thing where it's like, oh, I'm not intellectual enough. I don't know enough. And God is like, no, like you can wonder about me at any level. So I walked away from the conference with that reality, just watching different people that I know, that I trust, wonder with me. Yeah. But that was really neat. Yeah. Different, about completely different things. Yep. But so amazing. So
that's awesome. I appreciate you sharing a lot of the takeaways from you. Clearly it had a big impact on you. Mm-hmm. How about, and I don't want to limit you to just one thing. Like be free on this. Be free on this.
That's tough.
What would you say So 2 questions. I'll ask you one, and then after
Okay.
this, I'll ask you another
All
one.
right.
Like on the the ride back, where they had shared like you're gonna have more questions. Like, are there any questions that came up that?
Oh,
and I'm sure there's a bunch, but like just a couple,
just one or two, yeah.
and even as precise as they might be
Sure.
in these certain topics,
Sure.
like what
Sure.
what are some of those questions? Just curious.
One of them was, the soul body.
Okay.
Father Spitzer's talk, because his talk was about near-death experiences.
Okay.
Because I forget which medical journal. I think it's out of New York. I forget which one though, so don't quote me on this. But they actually had to make an official, like an official scientific publication, saying that it is undeniable that or extremely likely that your consciousness lasts beyond death.
Okay.
Like there are too many undeniable, scientifically vetted, like to the 1%. Yeah. Like these vettings Father Spitzer shared. I mean, his name is perfect because this guy, people think that I talk a lot and can talk fast. That priest, holy cow, like the amount of information that was coming out of him.
He thinks quickly.
It just, it was incredible.
Yeah.
But yeah, he talked about what he called the soul body. He was like, that's not the technical term for it, but that's the technical term that he made up. So the idea that after you have died, that your soul has extension. Like people remember saying like I had hands and feet, but I also like many people had 360-degree vision. Yeah. It was just all these crazy stories that are just like accounts that were verified. Like one of them that just made my head spin was the accounts of people who were born blind, die on the table, and come back, are resuscitated, and they report seeing things that are there. Like there was one a story about this one young man who passed away during an operation or something, and he said that all of a sudden he could see white everywhere, and he was like, that must be he's like 12, 13, so he's not stupid or inexperienced, like he's not crazy or something. So he goes, that must be snow. And then he sees 2 black lines running through the snow.
Okay.
And he goes, I wonder if those are train tracks. And then a train went by. And then he came back. He was resuscitated.
Yeah.
And he told them what he had seen. Now Father Spitzer said one of the beautiful things about trains is they run on schedule.
Yeah.
And so it's documented when he died and when he was brought back.
Yeah.
And in that time, the whatever time train went by the hospital. So that's just one of he told like probably 25 of these stories that just made me go, whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was a book and a movie, Heaven is for Real, that I remember seeing. Yeah. And so that I was in the car, and Father Ross, when he travels, he not to overshare, but he likes to take a different route if he can, to see more of the world.
Yeah.
And so we came up through Wisconsin, which is beautiful. Love Wisconsin, even though I'm a Minnesotan. Love Wisconsin. And I'm a Pennsylvanian now, let's be real here, but from Minnesota. But then there's Iowa, and nothing against Iowa, love you, but man, it's just corn everywhere. Just corn and corn. There was this great bumper sticker, or no, it was actually a license plate, which made it even funnier. This car drove by us, and it went, it was like OMG corn. It was hilarious, and it's an Iowa license plate, which made it even funnier. But yeah, so as we're driving back, I was at first like, really, we're gonna drive through Iowa, but it was actually beautiful because as we were talking and we were sharing and we were just kind of talking about life, there were moments of silence in the car, and as you're just kind of watching the same thing go by, it's not like you zone out, but you're able to kind of not be distracted for a minute, and that was one of the questions in the car that I was just like, kind of looking at my hands like, whoa.
Yeah.
Just like, there was one thing too. This is the second one. Same talk, Father Spitzer, where he talked about, oh gosh, what's the term? Something phylactic, where your spinal fluid fills up your cranium, and it replaces your brain tissue with spinal fluid. And there have been cases where, the people who have that condition still have an average IQ, and it makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah.
Because they have like 5% of their brain still functioning.
Yeah.
And what he talked about is there is something about us. It's not in us. Like, it's not like we have like Bishop Barron talked about, it's not like we have like a floating soul.
Yeah.
But like there's something about us that is almost like overpowering the physical body, or I shouldn't say overpowering, but powering the physical body, and we would call that a soul.
Yeah.
But he was speaking specific, like he did not talk about faith, he did not talk about morals, he did not talk about the theology of the body. Like I said, this was all this scientific near-death experience stuff, and it just, wow. I have my son is on the spectrum, and so there are a lot of times where he'll be up late at night, and I used to like scroll on my phone or watch a movie or a TV show. But since I came back from the Wonder Conference, I have spent several sleepless nights just sitting on my couch going, wow, just like mulling it over in my head. So I'm still asking, wait a second. So what about how does, oh my gosh. And there were so many other talks that I still have to sift through.
Sure.
So,
yeah. Thanks for sharing
That's
on those.
one.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing on those. Yeah. Real quick, I'd like to just read the title of some of these talks.
Sure.
Just kind of give an idea here.
I didn't get to go to all of them because there are 2 breakatures. Yeah.
The titles of these talks are kind of telling on just the depth of wondering here. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we have renaturalizing the body.
Yes.
Bishop Barron.
Yep. That was the introduction.
Yeah.
So that just kind of walked through the philosophy, like I said, the different philosophers who have sort of, I guess, thought about or explained like their existence with the body, I guess is one way to say it.
Then there was grounded in nature, an evolutionary framework for the body.
That was a cool talk. Yeah. That was a cool one. I like that one.
Can AI without a body be truly intelligent?
I did go to that talk.
That is a very interesting question.
That one was a good one. Yeah.
Consciousness and the body.
I did not go to that one.
The body as a symbol and the symbol of the body.
I did go to that one.
Yeah. I mean, these titles are just making me wonder. The body and bioethics.
That one was interesting because he was the only one there who is I don't want to say professional religious speaker, but like a Catholic. He was the only, other than Bishop Barron and a couple other people, he was really the only one who's like not a scientist. Okay. Like he was just there to speak on this, and it was that was a really cool talk. He put an interesting spin on a lot of those things.
Yeah. Ideological colonization in the body.
Yeah, that was a keynote. That was with a lady from Nigeria.
Yeah.
And she's actually spoken in Erie at the pro-life breakfast. Wow. So that was a cool talk because it was very affronting.
Yeah.
Like it made everybody a little bit uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And it was really good. So I liked that one.
Gender and the sacramentality of the body.
Yep. That one was controversial in today's society. And the conversation that we're having as a culture in the world. That one I really liked that one. But yeah, that was very deep.
Re-embodying public policy.
I wasn't there for that one.
And then the transcendent body on the last day.
Yep, that's Father Spitzer.
Yeah. I mean, just an incredible array of talks here. And you had mentioned just earlier here that not all the speakers were scientists. So it looks like the idea, you had mentioned this earlier about networking.
Yep.
Not just for the participants in network, but this is for everybody. So this is including all of those who are working in different fields because we need each other to tackle these really challenging questions. And the more and more questions that are coming yet ahead, this is a team effort. And that's one of the great gifts of the church is the saints work together. The body of Christ works together, and these are topics that need to be addressed in today's time, and it's really amazing. Incredible, absolutely incredible stuff going on at this conference.
Yeah, anyone who let me put it like this. Anyone who knows me well, if you tell them Tim was speechless, they'll be like, what happened? Something really, because I talk a lot. I mean, everybody knows that. But yeah, there were so many times I just kind of walked out of a talk very much just in wonder. And people, like, wonder for me used to kind of be this thing where I thought about wonder as like a spiritual experience.
Yeah.
Where I would sit there and be, oh, I'm in the presence of the Eucharist, or oh, like this amazing this song during adoration at a conference. Oh wow, it's moving me. And that is wonder. Absolutely. Like I'm not taking away from that experience or saying that that's not amazing and fruitful and necessary, because I think it is.
Yeah.
But it was really interesting to be like, have someone kind of like want to, like, I guess an example of this was I was in a different talk from Father Ross and our other counterparts, and they went to a different one, or maybe we were in the same one but we didn't sit together that one or something, and then we went to lunch, and I was like a block behind them, and as Father Ross, like, where are you? We're going to lunch, here's where we're going, and I'm like, I can see you, like I'm coming.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to lie to you. I had a temptation in that moment to just be like, I'm not going to go to lunch with you. Yeah. Like, I really just want to sit down and not speak to anyone and just think. But then, as to your point, when we got to lunch and we just kind of started talking, like, we didn't talk about the talk, but there was something really powerful of sitting with people who are like also in that state.
Sure, yeah.
Of like, my mind, is kind of blown. Father Ross actually mentioned like how a couple of the more philosophical talks, he was like, this is the kind of thing, like, this is all we talked about in seminary for days, it's just these different topics. So he was like, so yeah, it's like revisiting some of them.
Yeah.
And that's what I thought was kind of neat for me as a lay person who didn't go to seminary, to be like, this is there, like this aspect of faith is present. And one of the things that I always thought about philosophy and about a lot of these more scientific realities surrounding the faith, the mind, is that it was for academics. It was for people who are teaching at maybe a high level in education in the faith, and to find myself more in love with Jesus, because I've just wondered about something in his creation.
Yes. Yep.
Opens, like, because sometimes we talked about this in the regular podcast, but sometimes I think people get complacent about the faith. They get bored, if you will, with the faith. And a lot of times they're like, the beauty of God's creation can be a thing that draws us back in. And that's what the Wonder Conference really did for me, is realizing just maybe not some, like, I guess one way you could say is how far away maybe I've wandered in my mind, are my thoughts toward him, are my, and to really be like, no, like, the body really does sing to the glory of God. The trees, the Lake Erie, the sunset. I mean, on Lake Erie, we have one of the top 20 or something sunsets in the world.
Yep.
And I haven't gone to see one this summer, and I was like, that's messed up, so it just kind of brought it all together to just be like, what, the soul and the body, they go, like, this is all one thing. And I'm stumbling over my words and I'm rambling because I'm an external processor and I'm trying to process this. And I'm going to be doing that for the next year. So
that's beautiful.
One of the exciting things, and I will say this, is that experience is something Father Ross was talking to me about. He would like to bring here to this area, something like it, So I'm excited for people because I feel like one of the fruits of the conference, if nothing else, is it's opened my eyes, and I hope that Father Ross and I, from that experience, just like you came back, like some of your homilies after coming back from the Eucharistic Congress, not that they wouldn't have been great, but I have a feeling we're slightly influenced a little bit, your reflection on the Eucharist.
Absolutely. I think it's
coming back. All this is coming back.
Yeah. And you and I had talked about this, like with the conferences, you encounter these speakers, you talk with other people, and you bring it back. And so really grateful for you bringing this back. And you had shared something too about that movement towards love, which is the other question I really want to ask you about.
Go for it.
Is, the Wonder Conference, I think from an outsider view would be, wow, it's very like heady, because these talks are like about AI and the sacramentality of the body. And but it's both. It's it's involving the mind, but it's also the heart. So if you could just share, and you did earlier a little bit too, about that movement from the mind to the heart, like what maybe, and you talked about this with like the sunset, but maybe some other areas for you personally of like how you're feeling called to love or to receive love from God too. Kind of the heart part.
Yes. Well, that was the thing about this conference was it connected the two.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah.
Bridge. That was the thing is I've always been like, well, I'm more of a heart guy.
Yeah.
I'm not. I like to think like something that I guess I've always been kind of good at is hearing something that is super heady and then just like, okay, let me boil this down for you to some like infant level that maybe like, a 12-year-old would understand.
Yeah.
Cause that was my ministry, for many, many years as a working in the church, and it still is, but to kind of, I don't want to say graduate, but sort of move to a place like at this conference where it's like, I'm a part of something that is so beyond me. Like, and I used to think that I needed to go to Lake Erie, that I needed to look at the ocean like that. I was listening to one of the stations in Erie, and the DJ or whatever is talking about how like looking at the ocean is like scientifically proven to like improve your mental health because it reminds you just how little you are.
Yeah.
And if you're so small, your problems are even smaller. Like that was the idea.
Okay.
And that was essentially in just one aspect, just at the Wonder Conference, being like, I am standing with giants right now. Like me. Tim from Minnesota, little Tim. And I actually had an experience. I guess this'll be the link. It was actually a walk around the church. I got to visit my hometown briefly, and I actually, the last couple times I've been to Minnesota, it's been through the week. I haven't gotten to be there on the weekend, so it's been a long time since I walked into my home parish.
Yeah.
And my mom is very active in the parish. She has a key. And I say, hey, could we go inside? And she was like, sure. And we walked in, and it is different than when I grew up, but it's just this little church in the middle of St. Cloud, Minnesota, St. John Cantius. And like I said, I did walk around the church in it because I was so moved by the fact that, like, again, it is a very unimpressive church. It's not what you would think of as, wow, this is beautiful. But I'm going to get emotional. I got emotional in that episode, but like I realized like this is where I encountered Jesus for the first time. Yeah. This is where I had my first communion. This is where like I was in that choir loft singing every Sunday for years. I was at that AMBO proclaiming the word of God. I was a Eucharistic minister. All these different, I served at the altar. Like I'm looking at this place and now I'm just like, and now I'm going to the Wonder Conference.
Yeah.
Like that is a big, having experienced one, that is like going from that little church to where I was is a big leap for me. And to sit there and it just, if nothing else, it just showed like everything that we believe is true. And the wonder about these little things, these finite details, through the lens of the big truth. It just reminded me the blessing of Revelation. In John 6, Jesus is like, I am the bread of life. And to be able to have the resources and the ability to explore that reality. The psalm this week is taste and see the goodness of the Lord. And that's what we did. I mean, that's what wonder is.
Yeah.
It's like you used a cooking analogy. You got to marinate it, you know. That was what the Wonder Conference was. Is it was like taking truth and sticking it in a beautiful marinade.
Yeah.
And then just slow cooking it so that when you bit into it, it was just amazing. And I think that I always thought about tasting the goodness of the Lord in the church, tasting the goodness of the Lord in the sacraments. And you do that. That doesn't change. But to take the time to really think about all truth, to think about different aspects of truth, when you come back now to the big reality, it's like there's more there than you realized. Because if you're like, well, if I'm going to wonder about the soul body, about the body of the soul after death, if I'm going to wonder about that, well, what about the Eucharist? And it kind of teaches you to start to look at something and be like, whoa, pause. I mean, even the different prayers of the Mass. My favorite one to point out is, on Sunday, you'll be like, pray, my brothers and sisters, that my sacrifice and yours will be, I just forgot the words. My sacrifice and yours
may be acceptable
to God, Mighty Father. And then I get to say, may the Lord accept the sacrifice at your hands for the praise and glory of his name, for our good and the good of all his holy church. If you just stop and wonder about that.
Yeah, it's powerful.
Like you will never be bored.
Yeah, it's powerful.
It's like, wow. I mean, everyone likes to break apart the Our Father. That's a good one too, but to just start to wonder. And it was so refreshing to not have a conclusion. Unless you have more questions, I guess this is probably a good place to wrap it up. That was just the neat thing to be like to leave to arrive somewhere and be so fed that you're starving for more after. That was the Wonder Conference.
That's epic. That is really epic.
So
anyway, Tim, this has really been a gift.
It's been great talking
to you.
Appreciate you
sharing your contemplation from the conference and your openness and, I mean, what you had shared about the point of the conference. I mean, that's what it was. I mean, you're asking better questions. You're entering into wonder more, and those things are all gifts that God gave us to wonder about him. And so thanks. Really appreciate you sharing it with us. So final word, anything you'd like to,
oh man,
to share at the end
so
here?
Much. I guess I'll say this. If you have the opportunity to look at your life, to see the goodness of God in it, don't look at the obvious things. Look at possibilities. Look at both good and bad, and wonder why, God has worked with you to this point. I think about all of the decisions, like when I was at St. John Cantius, and I just kind of stopped and thought about all the decisions that I made for good or for bad, because some were bad. I'm not perfect. I've made a lot of mistakes in my life, and the only thing that I regret now that I've been more in my head is things that I chose that maybe, hurt somebody else. But what's interesting is when you look at like all the choices that you make, and then I find myself at the Wonder Conference, and you just look at God and say, wow, you are very, very generous. And then it just helps you to wonder and to think. It helps you appreciate people. It helps you appreciate circumstances. It helps you appreciate the Father and the love of the Father, the sacrifice of Jesus Christ and the life of the Holy Spirit. All of these things are things that you could spend hours wondering about. So, like I said, I guess my encouragement would be, come to Mass this weekend, or whenever you're watching this, come to Mass this weekend and allow yourself to wonder. Look at the Eucharist and just be like, whoa, that time after the Eucharist where Father sits down and all the little kids are thinking about going to get donuts. Don't think about donuts. Think about like, I have just received the Lord. Wow. That is a thing to sit. And like you said, I'm asking better questions. And that is true. You know, I have found myself asking questions that are much more concerned about other people after spending time wondering about the greater things, because all of a sudden I'm starting to feel a lot less vital, a lot less important. And so I'm like, how can I better other people through this? And then the last thing is, I heard one time an old spiritual director of mine, this is crazy. So at one of the meet and greets, my old spiritual director, Father Jerry, who I'm still Catholic because of him, honestly.
Yeah, that's awesome.
His niece was there. And so what was funny is we're talking, and I'm just like, wow, so we have this connection of Father Jerry. And something Father Jerry always used to say to me was, Tim, Jesus will never take you out to lunch and not pay for it. And this week, specifically right now, we have the Wisdom has set up her 7 columns. And I think that if you're like me and you're not necessarily an intellectual, typically, it's okay to go to prayer and allow the Holy Spirit to lead you to wonder, to sit there and say, like, Lord, like, I don't understand most things, or I'm not what you'd call smart, maybe in your own eyes. I feel that way about myself a lot. And to just be like, teach me wisdom in my secret heart. And all of a sudden you're going to be just like pondering things that you didn't know you could ponder. And so it's two-pronged. One is prayer like that. The other thing then is to get into a resource. At St. Jude's, we have Word on Fire Engage. It's sent out all the time. You can get it on Flocknote. Go and read something. Go listen to something. Father Mike Schmitz's homilies, his Ascension Press. Father Luke has been on fire lately. Father Ross as well. Father Shane, Father Joe when he's here. So we have great priests in our parish here. Listen to what they say and wonder about it. Listen to the Word of God and wonder about it. So I could just go on and on, but I'll stop there.
Yeah, thank you. I love that. I just want to. I really appreciate that with like asking the Holy Spirit to guide us into wonder. Yep. So really appreciate it, Tim. There's one line here from Psalm 139. Ooh. As you were sharing earlier. This is earlier in the podcast, my mind jumped to Psalm 139. Really worth the read here. So it's all about God.
Let's go for it.
How precious to me are your designs, O God. How vast the sum of them. Were I to count them, they would outnumber the sands. When I complete them, still you are with me. Just that thought of just like it's perpetual wonder for the psalmist, and his prayer is really all of our prayer too. So, Tim, what a gift it is to speak with you about the Wonder Conference, and God is awesome, and I
want to apologize
if anyone is great time.
If anyone is still with us after all of that rambling from me. Thank you. It's I know, like I said, I'm known to talk a lot and ramble a little bit, but I can't help it this time. Like I'm sitting here going like, I wish I could convey the wonder that we experienced to you, but I can't. Like, that's the thing. Like, there aren't words to describe wonder. And what's interesting is wrap it up with this. The Holy Spirit intercedes for us with inexpressible groanings. And that's wonder. Like, it's that I can't express what I walked away with. I walked away with questions that are beyond answering.
Yeah.
But yet, Jesus, the Holy Spirit, the Father, they can answer those questions. And I'm sure that there is going to be a talk, there's going to be a resource, going to be a conversation with a random person in the parish or on the street. They're going to say something, and I'm going to go, there it is. So I'm excited for that moment, and we'll just keep wondering till then. So.
Yeah, awesome.
All right, thank you, Father, for chatting. And
yes, thank you, Tim.
If you have a topic that you would like to speak about or speak to one of us about, in the church bulletin insert, please let us know. We're just excited to grow and walk together. So share, subscribe. Thank you for watching. God bless.
God bless.